Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to another episode of the Short Men Only podcast. We are going to be the top podcast in the land for short men. We gonna be it. We gonna be it. We gonna be one of the number one podcast. And I'm gonna just say thank you guys already in advance for getting us there. Because I believe in this mission and I believe in you short men. And I believe in me, myself, as a fellow short man. So without further ado, let's get to. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing wonderful, and I am doing great. Another day, I'm alive. A day above ground is an opportunity, and so I'm seizing the opportunity by coming to you, asking you to do the same. I want to talk today. We're gonna talk about. I told you in Tuesday's episode where we talked about being fed up in life. Today, we're gonna talk about how do we get out of that say you're fed up, you're in that dark place and you want to get out, but how do you get out of a dark place? And first, I think we have to start off by defining, like, what is a dark place? A dark place would be, if you feel in your life right now you have no goals, you have no motivation at all to, I'm talking about, to do anything. You don't even care. You just get up every day. You don't care what direction you're going. You just, hey, still alive, so I'll just wander through the day. You stop dreaming. If you have no dreams of what the future could be, what you might want the future to be, you're in a dark place. If you feel hopeless, and just feel like, man, I don't even know today if life is still worth living. You're in a dark place. If you are addicted to drugs, porn, social media, you are in a dark place. If you pity yourself, if you accept things you hate from yourself and other people, you are in a dark place. See, the dark place can take many forms. And honestly, I've been all of those except for the drugs at some point in my life. I've been all those dark places. And what I can tell you is the dark places is no fun. It it is hard waking up in the morning feeling like you don't have any desire to be or do anything. I still remember those days like it was yesterday, just feeling like just getting up, going through the motions, you know, just just coasting, not really caring too much how the day went, never taking the time to plan the day. Oh hell no. I'm just gonna go with what happens for the day. Go with the flow, you know? I had a lot of those days. And then you know, I'm gonna watch porn, but I don't watch it all the time. I'm gonna just watch it, a couple days a week, but never more than once a day. You know, I don't got a problem. Dark place. And I was thinking about that today, and it was just like, after the fed up shirt, it just made me think, man. We all go through life sometimes in a dark place. But, but, just because we have went into a dark place does not mean we have to stay there. Staying there is optional. It's not a requirement. It's not a requirement at all. So let's get into how the heck do we get out of a dark place. I'm gonna just give you a few tips that I learned along the way. And, you know, maybe not all of them will work for you, but maybe some will. The goal is I'm having the conversation. We're talking about it. I'm putting it out there, right? You have to figure out what works for you to get you out of this dark place. I'm going to share what worked for me. And I'm hoping that you can use some of it to get you from where you are now to where you want to be, which is out the dark and into the light. All right. The first thing is you have to admit it. I talked about in the last video, um, in AA, one of the things I've heard is that the first thing you have to do is you have to admit that you have a problem. It is hard to solve something you won't admit to, because if you won't admit to it, then there's nowhere for you to go. There's no way for you to make something better that you won't admit to. So you have to be honest with yourself and say, "Hey, self, I'm in a dark place, and I need to get out of here, like ASAP." It's almost like when you run into you get to work, get to work, and before you leave the house, you're looking at it. You already uncalculated in your head how long it's gonna take you, and then you it gets to the moment where you're like, if I do not leave now, I am not gonna get there on time. I got to get out of here right now. That's what it should feel like when you're thinking about that dark place. I looked at my clock. It's time. If I don't make it to where I want to be, if I'm going to make it to where I want to be, I got to leave now. Right now. Okay, so that's the first step. We got to admit it. And then the second step to that is we got to sit down in silence and really understand, think about what led me to this dark place. How did I get here? What is going on in my life right now that has led me to put myself in the dark? Because you are the only one responsible for putting you in the dark. Nobody else can put you in a dark place. Only you. Which should be good news, because that means you can get you out of it. All right? So we got to sit down, and that's hard to do because we have these phones, we have people, we have all these things that we could be doing. It is hard to sit down in silence. But I'm telling you, until you can sit down in silence and actually listen to what is going on up in here, you're going to have a hard time getting out of the dark. Because what you may do might be a band-aid on a small piece, when what you really need is to remove a big piece instead of, you know, banding, put a pretty little back band-aid on a little piece. We trying to remove the whole thing, baby. So we gotta sit down and just listen. And like I said, I know it's hard to do, but that is what we have to do. And then while you're in the listening phase, the next thing we gotta do is we gotta decide, what do we want? So we know we're in this dark place. We know the dark place does not make us happy. We know that there's nothing positive. It's not benefiting our lives to be stuck in this dark place. It's not making us, it doesn't give us any energy. It doesn't give us a desire to wake up in the morning or to do anything. It just keeps us stuck, slumbering alone. Just slumbering alone. So that's why we need to decide what we want. And I don't care. It could be in any area. I'm just saying, you got to decide something you want. There has to be something in this world that you want. That you want more than you want to be in the dark. There has to be something. And, how you can figure that out, There's no exact method, but I'm gonna give you a couple places you could think about. What do you spend money on? What you spend money on tells what you're interested in. Now, if it's just games and you know OnlyFans, then you know you ignore that. Don't ignore. That's the direction we're trying to get away from, not go towards. So it's clear that you like that, and you know I get it, but it's not the direction I mean. So another place we can look is, what do you talk to your friends about? Like, what can you just not shut up about? Like, you were just, man, you're the person that people come to for this one thing, this subject, whatever that may be. What is that for you? Another way you can tell that is like, what do you pull up your YouTube? Like, what type of videos do you watch? Like, what do you really like look for, engage with? Like, what kind of videos just get you, going? Now, again, these are the wrong type of videos. Abort, abort, abort. Please. That is not the direction we need to go. All right? We're trying to figure out the positive things, the positive directions. And another one would be like, what type of movies? What's your favorite movie? What kind of characters are you drawn to? Like, when you see a movie, who do you want to be like in that movie, and why? Like, is it a certain skill that they have that you want? Uh, what is it? You know, what type of books do you read? Mine's was, I knew mine's was the direction I'm going now because I like to read, self help books. I want to learn about how our mind works, all these things, right? So I knew the direction. That's what I spent my money on. Um, so I knew that this was a direction for me. But what about you? What type of things do you read? We're just looking for clues on you. Discover you. We're looking for clues that are going to help us decide what you want. And this is important because when you are in a dark place, how one of the ways we're able to get out of a dark place is not sitting around stirring while we're in that dark place. We aim at something. And that's the next thing. We aim at something. We start doing something that we are just engaged in that makes us forget all the other things that are going on in our life. We just start engaging in this thing, right? And when we start engaging in it, we start feeling better about ourselves. We start wanting to be, the best version of ourselves because we found something that we can engage in that is, fills us up, in our spirit, in our heart. We found something. And that aiming at the right thing can bring you like peace, joy, uh, self worth, self confidence, all of that, because you're aiming at something that makes you that's going to require sacrifice. You're giving up some things to aim at this thing, and you're focusing on it. You know, so I want you to. Uh, so that is why it's important for us to decide what you're going to aim. I mean, what do you want, so that we can aim at it, so we can get all these benefits of aiming at it. And then once you have something you want to aim at, before you start aiming at it, you need to ask yourself, what might stop you from aiming at my goal or achieving the goal? What might stop you? So I was thinking about it. I have to finish the Short Men book. I had to figure out, and I've been writing it for 3 years, and I had to figure out what is stopping me from finishing it. And one of the things I've discovered, well, there's a few things I discovered. One is just fear. So I have to, fear's been stopping me from completing it. Another thing that's been stopping me from completing it is, you know, I am not the best speller, wordsmith, whatever. I am not it. And then, the third thing that was stopping me is just not sitting down, not setting time to actually write the book. It's amazing what you can do if you actually sit down to do it. I was not sitting down because I was letting the first two things I said stop me from even wanting to sit down. And then when I did sit down, I didn't feel like what I was writing was good enough because of the first two things I said. So what I had to do was to start writing. I had to take away everything that could distract me from writing. I have to go into a room. The only thing that I can have in that room is the pen and paper I'm going to use to write and some notes, on grammar notes. Okay, this is how you do this type of sentence. This is what you want to make sure you have in a sentence. A verb, an adverb, um, you know, an adjective, whatever. Right. So making sure I had something so I could see and understand that these are the pieces, the building blocks of a sentence. What am I trying to convey? What am I trying to tell people with this story? Those are the only things I could have in that room when I sat down to start writing. And that has helped me and get out that dark place when it came to what I wanted to aim at. Writing, finishing this book or writing this book. That's what I wanted to aim at. So I had to discover those things. And one of the things I did was I had to I check ESPN, I kid you not, about 20 to 30 times a day. I do not even watch sports, but it is a compulsive habit of mine to check ESPN if I'm like stressed out or if I'm just overwhelmed, if I'm stopped at a light. My compulsory my default is to open my phone and check ESPN or open my phone and check my email. So to stop myself from this, I had to throw my phone way across the car, and then I added downloaded a website blocker, and I blocked ESPN completely off my phone, so I can't even go to it if I wanted to. I have attempted to go to it 6 times in the last 4 or 5 days, 6 times. So I'm glad I'm putting that in place because it's important. I needed to know, if I don't, because I rarely do too many other things. The other thing I had to do was just turn my phone off from the, morning into the late afternoon. I just have my phone off because if my phone's off, I can just focus on writing because honestly, I have nothing else to do. I don't have any messages to check. I don't have any, you know, needlessly scrolling my email to see after I just checked 5 minutes ago if somebody else is sending me an email, which I rarely ever get emails that I would reply to. So it's just, another habit. All these habits are just stopping me from writing. So you have to identify what is your habits? Like what do you do that would stop you from aiming and hitting your goal? Cuz like I said, this is what we have to do to get out of what? The dark place. Because the dark place is no fun. And so these are the things like I want you to understand that this is the process because you ain't gonna be able to get out the dark place without giving something up because you try to have everything. You want to watch porn and act like it has no effect on you. You can't do that. It does have an effect. What you take in them eye gates come out your mouth gate. And you start seeing the world from that perspective. And that's why, it makes it hard for you to talk to women because you don't let a lot of stuff in, and now you can't relate to women because you see them as objects. And so I'm just telling you this because I want you to get out of that dark place. But you're going to have to give what got you in that dark place. You're going to have to give it up. It's always a trade. We trade in something. And you got to trade that for what you want. Like, I'm willing to trade not being able to check my social media to finish this book. Why? Because the benefits of the book will pay off exponentially more than me checking social media. Like, if I'm able to reach short men and help them become the best versions of themselves, or am I able, or why wouldn't I trade that for being able to scroll down a feed of people I don't even know, looking at things that they're doing that honestly won't help me grow? I don't know why I just did that. That's just I hate that I can make anything rhyme. It's really ridiculous. But um I'm sorry. Anyway, I want you to start thinking about what your dark place is and start being honest with yourself. Admit it. This is my dark place and I'm going to figure out. Tell yourself you're going to figure out a way to get out of your dark place. I've laid out some of the ways you can get out of your dark place. Like I said, you got to sit down, figure out what's keeping you there. Sit down and listen. Because this is the thing. If you want to get the most, like you're in this dark place, you want to make sure you get the lesson from this dark place. Why? Because the lesson that you get from this dark place is going to be the thing that blesses your life. Like, it is going to be. Like, if I had never been made fun of as a short man, I would not, I told you guys this before, I would not give a dang about short men. If I wasn't short and got messed, and just had people always making fun of me and, just, just some of the things that just make me mad around that. If those things hadn't happened, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't have nothing to say. But that was my dark place, how I felt about my height, how I felt about being a short black man in America. That was my dark place. That was one of my dark places. So I had to get out of it so I can help you get out of it. So you're going to get a blessing from that lesson. And this has been something that has filled my spirit, being able to talk to you guys, being able to see this podcast grow slowly but surely. So I want you guys to think about this because, like I said, we got to admit it. We got to sit down in silence and figure out what got us into it. We got to decide what we want next. What do we want? We have to figure out what we want. I know we don't want to be stuck. And then we got to if we don't know what that is, we got to start asking ourselves. Remember, look at your bank. Look at what you watch. Look at what you read. Look at what you talk about. There's going to be some clues there. There should be, ask your friends, see what they see in you. And then you're going to, just really pay attention to what are the activities. Like, what do you end up, like, what happens to where you go into that dark place? Like, what are some of is it like you're around a certain person, you're doing a certain thing, and then boom, you just fall off the deep end and go into that dark place? Identify what that is. What leads you there? And then remember, too, that we got to aim at something. Once you decide, we got to aim at it. And then we got to figure out, what would keep us from hitting what we're aiming at. A lot of us, we plan for what we do want, but we don't plan for what we don't want. And what we don't want usually stops us from getting what we do want. So we got to know what traps, what, minefields are out there. So you need to know what will stop you. So that way you can work to avoid those things. And the other question I think is, other thing you have to remember is you got to give up something. You're going to along this journey, you're going to have to give up something, baby, because you can't be in the dark and the light at the same time. Pick a side. You got to give up one, and then you have to ask yourself, what might you gain by coming out of the dark? Because a lot of us stay in the dark because we don't know what we'll gain on the other side in the light. But I tell you, you're going to get that blessing from that lesson if you're willing to learn it and come out the dark and show, maybe your thing is you're supposed to show people how to not end up like you, how to not go in the dark. What is that? That may be your lesson. That may be what you're supposed to do. You definitely can't feel worse about yourself if you come out of the dark and start aiming at something. You can only feel better, which will improve your self-confidence, your self-worth, because you're proving to yourself that you can fall, but you can also get back up. All right, my short brothers. I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. This is Jalal Wilson with the Short Men Only podcast, and I tell you guys this all the time. I believe in you. I need you to believe in you. Come out of the dark. Appreciate this light. I promise you, it's better for you. And if you didn't catch Tuesday's video about being fed up, please go watch it, because none of this will happen until you get fed up with being in the dark. All right, peace.